So hi everyone, my name is Hugh Gray. I'm the VP of Community Engagement here in LA with the Asian American Journalists Association, and also a producer as well. And so we're so happy to have the cast of the CW's Kung Fu, Olivia, John, Shannon, Eddie, as well as the showrunner, Christina. And this panel will be moderated by the LA Times, Jin Yamato. And so it's going to be an hour long, and we'll also have a chance for audience Q&A at the end. So just put your questions into the Q&A, and I'll make sure Jen gets it. So Jen, you can take it away.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on panel. And also thank you, everybody out there, for tuning into the conversation. There's so much to talk about with the show, so I'm really excited to get going. I want to make this a conversation where everybody feels free to jump in and add your thoughts. Let's make it an actual conversation. We're going to cover a lot of sort of the general stuff about the show for those who aren't as like obsessively reading everything about the show as some people. But also we'll have a chance later towards the end to take some audience questions. So if you have a question, go ahead and pop it into the Q&A little window there. I wanted to sort of start with, we're going to set the stage for where we are now in your season. You are sort of towards the end stretch of your first season, and congratulations are in order to all of you for the upcoming second season, which is very exciting. But I was hoping, that for the cast, you could take us each through, just briefly, describe your character's journey to this point that we have now seen in the season so far, just to sort of introduce. And why don't we start with Olivia?
Hi guys, I'm Olivia. I play Nikki Shen. Man, she's been through it to get to this point where we are in the season. I think the last episode we saw her realize a lot about the destiny and what she was possibly meant to do this whole time. We kind of teased it from the pilot, but now we know how integral her family was in, and was she born into this and all of those things. But yeah, she was just kind of a girl who needed to figure out her own path, and we've watched her do that throughout this season. And now she's really starting to come to that fork in the road and need to make some really pretty heavy choices for herself and for her life.
Okay, it just occurred to me that I probably should have actually described the show. Now I'm overheating here, guys. Give me a break. So for those honors, I'd love for Christina M. Kim, the showrunner of Kung Fu, to set us up. What is Kung Fu about, and how do you like to describe your vision for this show?
Okay, well, Kung Fu is the story of Nikki Shen, played beautifully by Olivia Liang. And it's really her journey of becoming who she is and learning what her destiny is. So she basically freaked out. She was at Harvard, type A, had a lot of pressure from her family to excel. And shortly before graduation, she freaked out. She went on a cultural tour to China, which was kind of engineered by her mom to possibly find the perfect Chinese husband, and that was it. And she stayed, found herself at a monastery, learned the beautiful art of Kung Fu, and that's sort of the starting point of the story. But the real story starts when she comes home after her 3 years at the monastery, and she returns to her family, realizes that a lot has changed within her family in the city of San Francisco, and she herself has changed. So it's really about Nikki figuring out, who am I now? I've got these amazing Kung Fu skills. I'm a different person and I want to help people. And that's really the starting point. of the pilot and the show, and from there we've grown and we've gotten to know her family, her siblings, her parents, her love interests, and we're going in all crazy fun directions.
Speaking of Nikki's siblings, let's talk about Althea as we continue to sort of, introduce these characters that we've now been living with all season long. Shannon, tell us about Althea. What do you love about her? Where's she at now in her life?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon. Yes, I play Althea. She is the bubbly, tech-savvy older sister of Nikki Shen, Olivia. And when we first find her in the pilot, she's kind of that comic relief. You see that she's newly engaged to her dreamboat fiance, Dennis, played by Tony Chung. And she left her career to plan the wedding. But then later throughout the season, you find out that she's actually harboring this deep, dark secret that she was sexually assaulted by her boss, which is why she left. So throughout the season, you see all these different colors of her helping her sister tech savvy hack into things for the missions, but also planning her wedding. So there's some bridezilla moments in there. And then also finding her voice, figuring out how to come forward with her secret, who she opens up to, and what she wants to do with that information. And so she's often inspired by her sister, Nikki, because her sister's the brave one. So it's really nice to see that dynamic.
Althea is also very brave.
She's trying.
So is Ryan, the other Shen sibling. So John, take us into a little bit of where we find Ryan at the start of this season, which is really interesting. We meet him when he's already gone through something very big in his life, right?
Yeah, he's come out to his parents, and they didn't have the most welcoming of. They didn't really know how to deal with that information. He's dealing with the reconciliation between Ryan and Nikki. He feels a bit betrayed and jaded that she got to leave his essentially confidant, best friend, inspiration, has left and come back without any explanation. So we see them go through a bit of a reconciliation process. And while that's happening, he's a med student a med student at serving his local community center as the local doctor, GP. And he has a deep love for his community. He's found a purpose there, and also a deep love for his family as well. And while we go through that, he's also discovering what a relationship is like. And we eventually have seen the parents bring back up that topic of conversation about his sexuality. And in episode 10, it's I guess more of that, more exploration of that. It's one of my favorite bits that I got to shoot, because it's like, I don't know, go for Ryan. It's like, woohoo! It's a bit of a journey,
I love. There's so many. Honestly, there are a lot of Ryan moments, especially with Ty Ma's character, who Ty may be joining us, by the way, on this panel. That hit me like right here, and I've cried watching this show many times. I'm alone, so I'm not ashamed to say it. Eddie, will you take us through this character of Henry, who's not one of the Shen siblings, but why is he so nice, and what's his deal?
I think he's probably nice just because Eddie is nice.
Okay.
Fine, Eddie's not nice. Eddie's a tyrant and a monster on set to be around. So it's an overcompensation. No, I'm kidding. So hi, my name is Eddie. I play Henry Yan, and in the pilot, in the very beginning, we meet him via the community center. Henry and Ryan both work in the same building. They just have different jobs. So Henry teaches Tai Chi there to seniors. He is also a grad student in Chinese history, and he's an expert on art history, Chinese mythology, that kind of ancient history. And he's a nerd about that stuff. Like, he's just really passionate about that. He at some point in his youth, he found this newly deep passion and deep appreciation for his culture and his identity, which includes all the history stuff. And one day, Nikki walks down the hall and they have a meet cute and they meet. And then because she needs a little assistance and a little help for her journey that she's about to go on in the pilot. Hey, Ty.
Hi, sorry.
We're just catching everybody up to speed on who we are and what we play in
Oh,
60
okay.
seconds or less. Yeah.
Hi.
Hey, hi,
Hello.
everybody. Sorry,
Um,
just a little discombobulated a little bit.
no worries. How's New York?
Yeah, it's vibrant. It's happening. It's open. Yeah, among other craziness. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Henry meets Nikki, and she needs help looking up some ancient weapons. That's very much a huge part of the storyline. And Henry, there's like an instant connection, instant chemistry, and of course he's down to help. And thus kicks off this relationship where he is alongside her through thick and thin, like, you know, whether it's actually like physical altercations, whether it's buried in the library doing research on the weapons, and you know, finding out who is this person, Jalan, that killed Nikki's Sifu. And Henry is very much the Scottie Pippen to her Michael Jordan, and also you see that there's a genuine deep romantic connection. They're connected in many different ways. And so, yeah, Henry is along for the ride, very much along her side.
I mean, we'll come back
You
to
just
that.
call me Michael Jordan.
For sure.
I
Yes,
did
you
you?
did.
I called Nikki Michael Jordan.
As someone from Chicago, I appreciate the Bulls reference.
Well, The Last Dance did come out just last year, so I feel like we all have a much deeper insight to that
Yes.
connection.
Season 2, maybe they'll make it to play some hoops between adventuring and being in a love triangle that is testing
John wants it.
my powers of willpower. Ty, I'd love
Hey,
for
hi,
you.
Jen.
Hey, how are you? It's so good to have you. So happy you're here.
Nice to be here. Look at all these faces. I haven't
I
seen
know.
them like forever.
Well,
I know what
Ty,
it feels like forever.
Okay, so
so tell us a little bit about Jin. We're just sort of setting up a little bit of character background because you're towards the end of season 1 now. Everybody's been through quite a lot already, which I love. But Jin is a father who we see from the beginning is very loving. But we really we get to learn so many more dimensions to that love and to this character over the course of all that we've seen so far. So tell us a little bit about your take on Jin.
Ken is a kind of a throwback father, the throwback TV father. It's Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best, that kind of a dad, you know. And I feel that the within our community, we could use a little bit of that type of dad to be on the screen. You know, the dad that is supportive, a dad that allows their children to find their own path. Try not to dictate, you know, how they should conduct their life, just guidance, you know, and he's open to learning himself from his children, because it is a generation that is in many ways foreign to him, because these are American kids. He's not an American kind of a dad because of his upbringing and where he came from. So there are things that he needs to learn, you know. There are things that he can offer, obviously, from the cultural side, you know, something that hopefully his children will embrace their roots. Hopefully his children will continue to see that over 1,000-year history of civilization is meaningful. The fact that we've come this far, we've survived so many things and turmoils and natural disasters and other war-torn times, and that we've come this far. Hopefully our children, our American children, will see value in that, you know, And that's what we want to do. We want to be able to really offer the opportunity for us to reclaim our own culture because it's sort of been usurped. You know, people are eating udon, sushi, and it's like commonplace now, right? There's a yeah, I know exactly where the good noodle place is. Okay, and our clothing, our traditional clothing has also been usurped and stereotyped. We want to take that back. I want it back because we look good. We look really good in them. So, I don't want you to see me in a Chinese cheongsam for a man as Fu Manchu. So I'm going to take that back from Fu Manchu. Fu Manchu, you had your time, brother. You're done, man. You're done. Okay. So we want to take that back. We want to reclaim, our powerful women warriors. Throughout history, we've had them. Unfortunately, they sort of remained dormant for a little bit of time. And we're bringing them back. And we're going to remind the world that our women holds up half the sky for real, not just win words. So these are all the things that I'm interested in the show that Christina has so graciously offered this to all of us. And I want it all back. I want it all back and give it to the world the way that it was meant to be seen. In season 2, hopefully we'll continue to explore that down that path, and the world is gonna be they're gonna be amazed.
Preach
So
on time. Yes.
Mhm.
Well, okay, let's go along those lines of sort of reclamation, right? Christina, take us to the creative journey of this show and this vision of reimagining what most American audiences knew as the original Kung Fu, which is the 1972 series starring David Carradine. But it is extremely not that story, right? This is a story all of its own. So give us sort of a highlight of what it was like to begin this creative journey of introducing this new mythology, these new characters, and really centering who you are centering on this show.
Well, I was approached to reboot Kung Fu, and I have to say it was terrifying because I know it's a beloved show from the 70s, and it there were issues with it, and there's big things that I wanted to change. And first of all, I thought it was really important that the lead be played by an Asian actor. And then selfishly, I wanted to write a really strong female Asian character and someone that when I was growing up, I never saw on TV. And I want for my children, for them to see someone like Olivia and just be inspired by her and think, wow, there is someone that I can look up to that is not who you usually see on TV. So those are my two things that I pitched. And I said, this is really important to me, even in the casting process, that the actress that we find to play Nikki is fully Asian. And the studio was totally behind me. They were 100% there. And that made me so happy. So those are my kind of sticking points of creative things that I needed to have happen. And then from there, it was just creating this world, Asian families, I needed to write about my family and my friends' families and the things that we all have in common, and things that we have in common is the Asian American experience, whether you're Chinese American or Korean American like I am, there are things that are shared. And then of course there are things that are very specific to the Chinese community as well that I wanted to dig into and learn about. So it was a lot of research. As Ty mentioned, women warriors date back many, many centuries. I did research, and Nikki's family line is kind of based on these historical characters. Obviously, I fictionalized them, but they're drawn from real history. So there was so much just research looking into the art of Kung Fu, Buddhism, a lot to draw from. And it was really fun, but it all really crystallized once I figured out who Nikki was in my head. And then from there, it was her family and those family dynamics. And the other thing I really wanted to do was to write a multi-generational show, that it wasn't just about the kids. Even though we're a show on the CW, Ty's character, Kang's character, the parents are so pivotal, so important. And it's those relationships that I think I love hearing, that people watch the show with their families, with their kids, and they can all sit down on Wednesday nights and watch it. That makes me so, so happy. So that's a little bit of the backstory.
Olivia, I'd like to hear your version of like your memory of this show coming on your radar, this opportunity. What I really appreciate, just to preface this, what I appreciate in hearing from actors is their hustle stories, because it really like I think it brings home the reality of this profession, especially for actors who don't have the kinds of roles written for them like this show offers, right? So I loved hearing like your hustle story of wanting to act from a young age and having to really fight for that. So talk a little bit about the opportunity that this show and this character presented to you, and what was the moment like when you got the job?
Oh, well, I mean, I grew up like Nikki with, a very strict mother. And so fighting to become an actor and let my mom actually pursue this was decades long of, telling her that I'm interested in it, and her saying, I don't think it's going to happen for you. And I think subconsciously it was because she was looking at what was on TV or in movies and thinking, well, we don't belong there. And so I think that was her way of protecting me from it. But that actor life of working 3 jobs in LA and auditioning and bombing and hoping for that big break. But when Kung Fu came into my inbox, my initial reaction was truthfully like, Kung Fu, really, guys? Like, I'm an Asian, like, what's going on here? Because I wasn't familiar with the original. And then but then I opened the email and it says Nikki lead, and I was like, what? And then there was a character breakdown of all of the other characters, of the family members of Henry, of Pei-Ling, of Jilan, and it was all Asian people, and they were all leads. And then I read the script and I was like, what? This is a story about an Asian American family. And I couldn't believe my eyes. And so when people are like, what drew you to the role of Nikki? It's that we don't get this opportunity. So obviously, yes, is my answer. And so, through the audition process and feeling so connected to a character for the first time in my career, and not having to act because Nikki was so accessible to me, thanks to Christina's, writing and her being an Asian American person. Every part of this process was exciting. And then, being in this final testing process with all of these Asian people going out for all of these Asian roles, and none of us looking at each other like it's you or it's me. It was just like, oh my gosh, thank God it's going to be one of us, because none of us imagined that, we would ever be there. And then when I got the role of Nikki, I cried for 3 hours and told my mom, and and then I went out to K-Town and celebrated.
Nice. Did you karaoke? What was their celebration?
A lot of soju.
Excellent. Shannon, John, Eddie, as I don't want to say younger, but I'm going to ask Ty his own question next. And he and I have talked before about his illustrious career. So I want to first put it to you three. Give us a sense of, for you and your experience, what has the landscape of Hollywood opportunity looked like for you? And then what did your characters offer each of you in terms of these multidimensional characters, each with their own secrets, because everybody on the show has a secret. But talk about that experience for you as actors. Maybe Shannon, we can start with you.
Yeah, I think something that was most impactful for me, I found out later. Well, first of all, I originally auditioned for Nikki, which was really interesting because I echo everything Olivia said. You pull up the audition, Kung Fu, and you're like, okay. Of course, it's called Kung Fu. We didn't know what the 70s version was, but once I saw that it was a reimagining, I had told my parents, and my dad was so excited. And for its time, he was like, yeah, everyone loved it back then. Like, that's where all the Asians were so proud because all the kung fu would come in there. And then that's how we would be seen. And everyone thought that Asians were cool only because of martial arts. So fast forward, and my grandpa was also in the original. That's a whole nother story. But once he found out that the reimagining had an Asian female lead, he was so proud because he would talk about how, like, back in the day, there was a bunch of Asian background actors, but none of them got to do anything unless you knew martial arts. So he is so proud that he gets to sit down every Wednesday and watch a cast full of Asians. He doesn't really know what's going on, but he's really old and has dementia. Sweetest guy ever, but he's so proud of everyone. He doesn't even know which character I am, but it's really cute. He's just so proud, and I think that's just a full circle of just like, wow, like he's over the moon. I'm like over the moon for him. But yeah, it's just been really special. I think I speak for most of us, the younger ones, especially like we didn't have very many people to look up to when we were going out and auditioning or wanting to aspire to be actors. So the fact that we can do this for others, I think it's really special. And I love what Ty said before, generations, and it's so special. I love this group.
Don, your own experience?
Oh yeah, sorry. In regards to, in particular?
Well, what has this character in the show offered you that you feel like maybe you haven't been able to experience before as an actor, or what has this show experience been like for you?
It's been pretty cool. We get along so well, and I don't really know exactly what to attribute that to. Is it because we all have similar sort of experiences? Is it because we're all Asian? Is it because, do we have similar interests? It just so happens it's like all of the above. And it is so nice to be able to just exist without, how do I put this? Like, we just understand each other. And it's not to exclude anyone or anything. It's just like, it's like, oh, yo, we get it. We know what's up. And yeah, so I've been so super thankful to be a part of that experience, cast wise and crew wise. And as for my own sort of like, yeah, like Olivia said, piggybacking off of that, in the audition room, we were so excited for each other. We even went out to lunch afterwards. All the potential Nickies, Altheas, and Ryans, and Henry, just Eddie, because he was too good. He was the only one in the room, really. He was competing against himself. But we all went out for lunch, and we like got to be like, yo, that was intense. That was really. But I've never had that before with anyone. We've never.
Oh, that doesn't happen all the time after audition.
Not at all. You would just leave and be like, screw that guy.
Yeah.
Hope I get it. But with this, we just had so much love for each other, and I was so fortunate to see Eddie get the phone call to say, hey, you got the role of Henry, which was really cool. And then for me, I remember Eddie was dropping me off back to the hotel, and I got a call from my agent, and I was like, nah, hang up. I don't want to deal with this right now. Because, yeah, I know. I was just like, nah, dude, I need to look after my mental, right? Because I think I'm gonna lose it in this car if I do it. So I just was like,
or
cool.
you could look out for it by answering the phone. That would tell you that you got the job.
Probably. I just had to. Well, I had to get my mind straight. This is because I think this is where, yeah. So went back to the hotel, and I had to like meditate for a second, because getting a role that's a dream role is like a life-changing thing, and I don't want to take that lightly. And I had to go through scenarios in my head of like, okay, if you did get it, what does that look like? If you don't get it, what does that look like? And for me, it was just meditating for like a second, for like not too long, of like, hey man, it was a self-talk of like, hey man, you got a great life back home, and whatever happens, like, you've come this far, you can do it again. like I would love to work with these people, but we'll just see what happens. It's like the worst case scenario, I'm gonna go back home and I'm gonna see my girlfriend, and I'm gonna hang out with my friends and work at the gym, which I enjoy. That's a good life at the moment, and I like auditioning, right? And then so I was like, cool. With that mindset, I was like, let's go, we're in. And so my agents, I called my agent back like, oh, yo, what up? And then they're like, okay, so we heard you were just a little bit nervous in the last audition. I'm like, yeah, I like screwed up a line. I mean, I know it's just a line, but like, yeah. And they're like, okay, well, we just want to say we're really proud of you. You did so well, and we'll get the next one. And I was like, all right, cool. And like, psych, mess with you, you got it. And I was like,
Oh, that's cold.
That is savage.
Mean.
That is evil.
So
I
it was a
know.
moment of like, so can I celebrate? It's like, yeah, we're going out for drinks. I'm like, okay, cool. So I had a weird like push and pull of like, is this good news? I don't know.
Oh shit.
That was my experience of landing the role of Ryan. But since then, dude, we've been having. I mean, I wish I had more drama to tell you about everyone, but we just get along like a house on fire. Like really, it's just such a loving environment. Unless you got something to say. You got something to say, Olivia?
Just kidding. Just kidding. I love you guys.
What about you, Eddie?
Yeah, so it's been great.
Eddie, do you have drama to spill?
I don't know. I don't have any drama. I think it'd be easiest for me to answer the question, maybe like chronological order. Like I got the audition. I had the same reaction. I was like, great, more Asians doing Kung Fu. Awesome. That's exactly what we need. But then we read it, then we auditioned, then we went in, we saw each other. Fun fact, I actually auditioned for Ryan and Henry. And what I loved about that opportunity was the fact that I actually felt like a 55-45 connection to Henry, to Ryan respectively. I connected so much to Henry in so many ways because that is my background. I worked in a gym as a trainer for many years. I've trained seniors and people of older, like all kinds of like, physical conditions where, I do know what it is to be in a community where a bunch of people just know who I am and I'm like helping people physically in that sense. And then with Ryan, like I found him to be actually very funny and there's just that deep hurt that he carries where he had to like take on the family burden. And there was just so much that I loved about both. And like the fact that there are these two guys that I now actually had an opportunity to audition for felt really empowering. And with this show, I felt like, you had asked about seeing the landscape change over time, because when I was starting, and for many years, even after Crazy Rich Asians came out, I still saw this thing of like, we are a white, Western, American-centric, filtered lens of what it is to be Asian, what it is to be a leading man, what it is to be fill in the blank, a hero, whatever you want to call it. All those different examples, and all of a sudden I see us in this script, in this pilot, with even just the 2 roles that I got to read for, like we're becoming 3-dimensional. Like I'm seeing it happen. But not to say that there aren't 3-dimensional characters on TV who are Asian. Of course, there are plenty, thank goodness. But I just, like, within the script reading, I was like, I saw an exponential spike in that happening in real time, and I definitely, my other first reaction was, oh God, more Asians doing Kung Fu. And then the other reaction was, I'm not going to get this. Like, there's no, what do I? So I went into it very much with like, I have nothing to lose. Like, I'm just going to have a ball with it. And I'm really going to just do me rather than my idea of what I thought this was supposed to be. And that's like more of like an actor's conversation, less of like a, let's talk about the show kind of thing. But like, yeah, like I think when actors start to play the idea of something, they fall into a trap because then they start making these general choices that aren't unique to themselves. And I think that's where our show really succeeds, is that everyone who you see here and across the show, like these people belong in these roles because all of us, we dared to be ourselves. And Christina wrote this thing in a way that it enables us to be ourselves. and not a version of what someone else thinks we're supposed to be. And that's why I think that's why people gravitate to these characters, you know. And yeah, again, I think when so JP was parking lot with me, we were leaving after the screen test. I get the call from my agents. They tell me I got it. They were not so mean as to tell me, psych, you got it. But I remember feeling very lightheaded, like I almost fainted on the pavement. And JP caught the whole thing on camera, and it was like one of those awesome moments. And then, yeah, but since then, I think sometimes we feel like we're in a bit of a whirlwind where there's so much circling around us. But at the same time, while we're in the eye of the cyclone, there's like this safe protective shell that we provide for each other in a way, because like we've been saying, like we have this shared experience. We have so many of these commonalities as Western Asians, and and it's very much about like this genuine portrayal of like what it is to be an Asian American, a Chinese American, because I mean, some of us in the group, to certain extents, like I know I can speak personally for myself. I grew up, I remember when I went to China, like when I was like 26, 25 years old, I visited, I was so excited to go. I was like, wow, I feel like I'm excited to feel like I belong somewhere, especially Southern China, because my family we're Hakka Chinese, and there's like the southern, like the official capital of the Hakka people was called Meizhou, which is in the Guangdong province. And I was like, oh my God, people really speak my dialect. Like this is so rare, and it's gonna be such an amazing opportunity. And I go and I tour throughout China. I never felt so foreign, and all of a sudden, smacked me in the face. I was like, I am not white enough to be fully American in some people's minds, and I'm not Chinese enough to be Chinese in other people's minds. Like when I go there, and I felt like I was stuck in between these worlds. And I love that this show and the story gets to explore some of those things sometimes. And I love that Henry, like for myself as Henry, I feel like I get to reclaim that pride that I lost when I was a kid, that I didn't have, because I grew up in a Western centric place where I didn't feel safe to embrace my own Chinese Asian identity. And like, I really feel like we get to do that now. And I've been handed that ball, and I feel like I get to just run with it. So it's been beautiful in so many ways.
It's like you said, it's even the simple truth of having the lived experiences of being Asian American or Western Asians, of having like knowing the full dimensionality of lives like your characters, does give you like an innate understanding coming into these characters. And Ty, you're everybody's favorite dad. You know that. I know you know that. On this show, before you joined the panel, I revealed that, yes, I have cried watching season 1, and often in the scenes involving your character. A lot of the parent stuff really gets to me. I'm sure a lot of people out there probably can relate. But Ty, take us into sort of those moments of, you know, I think you're really doing a service for a lot of Asian American kids out there, giving them like the parental moments that maybe a lot of people are craving. But, you know, how do you situate Jin in your amazing filmography of Asian dads? And, you know, those moments, why are those important for you to portray?
This dad is unlike any other, really. I've done a lot of them, as you pointed out. And it was a conversation Christina and had very early on, and what type of dad he's going to be. And we are following the game plan, because this dad will continue to embrace and love unconditionally. He's not going to trip anybody out. He's going to, make the kids feel guilty in any way, what they do or don't do. And I feel it's important for us to really embrace, parenting in a new way, because this is a new world. Things we see and face today, it's unlike anything we've ever seen before. And I feel that we definitely have to make an effort to continue to really nurture our children in a way where we embrace differences. We embrace journeys that we all take. Right or wrong, we will find out, whether or not these paths we take, is the right one. Because success it's not that exciting to me. I think the many failures that we face will lead us to better successes. Successes is something that is, if it's just for the sake of succeeding, it's quite shallow. There is no meat to it. If you have never failed, if you don't know, have tasted defeat and failure, I'm not sure how well you're going to know your successes. And I think this is the kind of the attitude that I want to continue to radiate from Jin, you know, and I will continue to be the softer side of him because I can be a hard ass, you know, but that's somewhere else. For Jin, he is his name. His Chinese name is Jin Jia, to build a family. And we gave that name to Jin for a purpose. He is building a family. And that's what we want to convey, from my point of view. And hopefully season 2, we will continue to learn from all the things we've done from season 1 and get better, improve, find the little pitfalls, do not the laurels. We'll continue to test the waters. We may not succeed all the time. Wherever those things, if we step in a pothole or something, we'll get back up, we'll fill the pothole, we'll, and see what happens from there.
Before we sort of open it up to audience questions, which there are many, and some of them include hashtags like Hecky, and I will add my own Heaven. We will get to that. But before we open it up to questions, Christina, I wondered if you could take us into the creative process of writing some of these episodes that some of the themes that we saw really explored in a versatile way. For example, Black Lives Matter is written into the I forget which number episode.
Fifth episode.
Yes, and it's such an important, I think, social commentary to weave into the show, but it's also one that from the outside, it's really sort of impressive that your writing staff in this show could pivot that quickly to address something that was happening really in the world in the moment. Same thing with instances of anti-Asian hate that we have sadly been seeing for a long time now, but these are very present issues that all of us out there in the world have seen and witnessed and participated in the moment. Can you talk about the imperative to write those issues and into the lives of your characters? And then also, how do you do that? How do you go about writing something so current into the show?
Well, I think, we have a responsibility. This is the first Asian American drama on network TV, which is crazy that it's 2021 and it's the first. So, there is a lot of pressure to not only get the story right, but to be able to talk about issues that are important to the Asian community. And unfortunately, these instances of anti-Asian sentiments and hate crimes, all that's not new. And that was always something that, we thought we might touch upon, at some point in the season, because it is a part of our lives, unfortunately. And then as we started writing the season in, the summer with Black Lives Matter, the network approached us and approached all the CW shows and asked all of its shows to address it somehow in whatever way we felt comfortable in our storylines. And so for Kung Fu, it was really important for my co-showrunner, Bob Behrens, and I, that we made sure that it was a Black Lives Matter story, but seen through the lens of the Shen family and through an Asian American lens, as opposed to just putting it out there and it could have been on any other show. And so that's why we really wanted the storyline to be woven into each character and to give each character an opportunity to talk about race and racism, their experience with it, and the differences between the older generation and the younger generation. Like Mei Lee at first presents like she doesn't want to talk about it, that she's hardline, even harsh, and Nikki is butting heads with her mom, thinking that she's very old school and perhaps even racist. And we flip that as we find out more about the story. We find out about the mom's own experience with racism 25 years ago when she first came to America. And these are the conversations that I think a lot of families don't have because they're unpleasant. My own family too, I feel they protect me from things that happened when they first came to this country because it's unpleasant. You don't want to hear about, your parents being in danger or your parents having bad things happen to them. So it was a way to bring the family closer together while also exposing these really deep, emotional wounds and things that could bring the family together. So, we had a lot of really interesting conversations in the room. We have fantastic writers. Everyone was bringing ideas from their own experiences. And I was just really, my cast, like these guys are so talented and so amazing. So whatever we write, you guys just elevate, exponentially. So the emotion that you guys brought to these scenes was really what elevated the material. And I'm really just happy that people seemed to connect with the storyline, and it at least brought about, more conversation.
What did it feel like to the cast shooting that episode, Sanctuary?
Wow.
I'll be honest, I had,
yeah. Go.
I was just gonna say, I had a lot of anxiety surrounding that episode because we, as Christina said, as we were in a unique position as an Asian cast to tell this story through an Asian lens. And so long, these two communities have been pitted against each other. And I was like, what's this story going to look like? And then thankfully it was written beautifully and it turned out so well. And as Christina said, the generational things, and we just had such a unique opportunity to tell it from a very unique point of view. And I feel very proud of it that, it started some conversations in some households, maybe between generations, so that we can come together as minorities in this country rather than, be pitted against each other.
Did you have something to add?
I just think it was an episode that it's the first time it's like a starter in a car. We started the engine. It given us an opportunity to get on the road and see what we will find. How do we kick all the wedges out and fill those gaps, solids. And I think what's interesting too, which I didn't really expect when I read the script, I was really pleasantly surprised at the fact that at the end of that scene, we all stood up and said, "Arrest me." That's powerful. That's something that it tells me also we're paying homage to all the activists of Asian American descent from our past who have yet to be recognized because we don't teach our history. We're not as silent as people think we are. We've been in the trenches for a long time. It's just that we don't hear about those stories. And I felt that scene, at least for me, it gave me the sense that, somehow, whether or not Christina's consciously or subconsciously remembered that we were always been part of the activism that is part of our country. It is part of our makeup as Americans, So whatever she was thinking about, I felt good. I felt that particular moment, just that split with less than a minute of imagery of each one of us stepping forward as Asian Americans and said, "Arrest me." That was powerful for me.
I know it's usually not healthy or productive to acknowledge a contrasting opinion. I just want to say that I find it very interesting that the overwhelming majority of the opinions that were against us having an episode themed around Black Lives Matter and racism came from people who do not share the same lived experience as Asians and Black Americans in this country. And it's interesting that you can sit there and shout, keep your politics out of my entertainment. Because for us, it's not politics. For us, this is real life, and this is happening now as it always has been. And if your takeaway is to say that you don't want this in your entertainment, I think it's just sort of further proving the point of why we need to discuss it. Because as Ty has said this to us before, we've had many talks as a group, and that's part of the reason why we have such a strong bond, is because we can talk about these things on such a deep level, is that we can reach so many minds through the medium of television. A lot of us have, especially Ty, like a lot of us have theater backgrounds, and like it's great when you do a really powerful black box production, but there's only 30 seats in the house, so it's hard to change the world 30 seats at a time. That's even if you even fill the house. But here we have a chance to address this on the nose in front of everybody at a time when, how could we not say anything? Even if the CW didn't come to Christina, how could we not say anything about it?
Yeah, thank you for those answers, guys. We're even seeing in the comments a lot of people responding about that episode. There's one question I want to lead with from the audience, from Natasha. Apologies if I have said your name incorrectly. This is a great question. To quote the late, great Roger Ebert, quote, "Nobody would say to a bunch of white filmmakers, 'How could you do this to your people?'" And of course, Natasha is referring to the infamous Sundance screening of Better Luck Tomorrow, where in one of the Q&As, one of the audience members stood up and tried to shame the filmmakers for making a depiction of Asian American life that did not fit the model minority idea, right? Continuing the question, Asian American characters have the right to be whoever the hell they want to be. Yes. They do not have to, quote, represent their people. Do you feel that even with all the progress in DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in film and TV, that you still feel the pressure or perhaps the burden of representing our entire diaspora? And if so, how does that make you feel? I would love to know how you even approach thinking about that.
Anybody?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief. Yeah, we're fully cognizant of the pressures and the chatter surrounding our show and what it means, and the responsibilities, and it's one of those things where, yeah, we're hyper aware that we do represent our community in several layered kinds of ways. We're aware that there is a bit of a burden to it, but the way we deal with it is by running the fuck right through it. I'm sorry, can I say that? We run right through it. The thing is like, by being, the more true we stay to ourselves, I feel that's our best shot at representing, to show to everyone else, yeah, like we can be whatever we want. And that's how you break the mold, by not hiding behind its shadow.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we do. I mean, we certainly do want to have the same opportunity, right? The playing field needs to be equal, has to be level, right? So other ethnicities, they don't have to face what we do. We have to go through ethno-specific. We have to go through, oh, well, you really can't be that because you're not that race, So, I've always said, I mean, if that's the case, then how come nobody complained about Denzel Washington play Cry Freedom, and he's not African? Why can he could do that? Nobody said peep about that, Forrest Whitaker or somebody, And then you say, whoa, you can complain, why is Jimmy Smith's Che Guevara? He's Puerto Rican. He's not even full Puerto Rican. So I'm saying like, well, everybody that looks Nordic can play German. Nobody have to say, oh, well, he's Dane, you know? So why do we have to be all of a sudden be so specific that that we don't get the opportunity to stress and explore and be all that we can be as an actor, right? And yes, there is a responsibility, of course. Yeah, we want the opportunity, but we also don't want to do something that the community is going to look in a way where, okay, we should know better, and we should. And also, something that's even more important is the multitude of voices in our community, and we can't represent everybody. And we shouldn't be representing everybody because then in the famous Japanese phrase about though, it's like you cannot be about though, because if that happens, then you please everybody. Because we have to be specific. You can't just be about though, right? So you really have to focus, and I don't think we should aim to please everybody. We can't. The answer is to get more shows from different voices and different point of views. Because just AA is hard enough. AAPI, forget about it. It's a lot.
So true. We need
Yeah.
more voices in the room, more stories out there, more time because we are running out of it, unfortunately. So we only have time for a few more questions. That segue was totally unplanned, by the way.
It was gorgeous.
Thank you. I did it in my head as if I was counting out dance beats to a choreographed action scene. I am referring, of course, to the infamous viral video that Olivia posted of her rehearsal for one of these action sequences.
Oh, which one?
I like the one with the internal monologue.
Yeah.
Perhaps that can be the segue into one of the great questions that our friend Laura has dropped in the chat, which is, what do you all hope to see explored for your characters next season? And if you want to tell us what's going to happen for the rest of season 1, that's totally fine. This is a safe space. No one's going to spill your secrets. I would go back to, this is a good opportunity to go back to the hashtags, the aforementioned hashtags. I believe they're Hecky and Heaven. But Christina won't even pay any mind if you guys spill any secrets. I'm sure it's fine. Tell us what you would like to explore or see happen in this now second season that you have been given.
I think for me as Olivia, wanting something for Nikki, I would love to see her have a little bit more fun. She's been through a lot. I think I would like to see her enjoy life a little bit before needing to help more people. But yeah, she's been through quite a whirlwind this season, as you guys have seen and will continue to see through the rest of the episodes. And I think it would be really nice for Nikki to go on a nice vacation in Hawaii and get to go snorkeling with her family or with a boy. I don't know.
Wait, which one? It's okay, you can tell us.
Pick family, please. I want to go to Hawaii too.
It'll be the family.
Anyone else with a quick answer to season 2 dreams, hopes and dreams?
No, go ahead, Shannon. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, 2 quick things. I would love to see Althea go back to work and see what that looks like, because I low-key love it when she has to talk all this tech stuff and so smart, because I don't know in real life any of that stuff. So I'm like, yes, I feel so smart. And then 2, I would love a musical episode. Just, we don't have to, but just putting the feelers out there, we're ready. Okay, go on.
No, you have to. You have to do that, Christina. I'm going to try to squeeze in one quick question before I squeeze in the actual last question. You guys filmed this in Vancouver, actually, standing in for San Francisco. Let's see, who asked this? Christina Pineda, greetings from Vancouver, Canada. She says, thank you for the amazing job you're doing representing Asian Americans and Asian Canadians. Could you tell us some of your favorite places you enjoyed while in Vancouver? We'll give like a little bit of a local flavor.
Oh, let me tell you. As far as fast food goes, I think every sort of like place has like California has In-N-Out. That's your thing. I don't think Triple O's gets enough of a shout out in Vancouver because that place is the Baum. Many a
So good.
nights. There's the Lynn. A few of us got to go to Lynn Canyon and walk there. They've got beautiful trails and such. Those are my shout outs. Triple O's and Lynn Canyon. We didn't get to go skiing though, or snowboarding. We'd love to do that. To find the time to do that. That would be the next trip. But yeah, those two things.
One of my location favorites is Golden Ears Park with that lake, Lake Alouette. Oh man, what a
lovely.
We had base camp set up, or we call it Circus in Canada, but Circus was set up overlooking the lake. Just breathtaking.
Lovely. And this last question is from Claire. It's a question for Christina. Do you find do you find that how you know the show is having an impact and success is the same or aligned with how the studio measures success? So I guess the question is also like, how do you measure success versus how the studio might measure success? Where do those align?
Yeah, I mean, we have such incredible support from our studio, from Warner Brothers, and from our network, from the CW. They're thrilled. Our ratings are great. Thank you to all the fans for watching. I mean, you never know how a show is going to be received. So after our first night, and we did amazing, I think that there's a lot of love and appreciation for our amazing cast. I mean, anytime we have a meeting with the studio network, the first thing they say is, we love our cast. And then Bob and I, my co-showrunner, are like, we love our cast. I know. And then it's 10 minutes of how amazing you guys are because the audience is connected with you. So yeah, the love is there. It's incredible.
And give us a little tease as we sign off. This is on Wednesdays, 8/7 Central on the CW. But this coming week, and this is my shout out to one of the two people who wrote this coming episode, is named Linda Ga, and she co-wrote this week's episode with John Bring. And I just wanted to give a little shout out because a lot of people
It's
in the
one
journalism.
of our favorites.
Oh, is it? Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And there are two very talented staff writers there for scripts, so very proud of them. And it's a great episode, and you guys should not miss it. We have new episodes running till the end, to the finale, every Wednesday. So keep tuning in.
Excellent.
Things will happen.
Things will happen. Will they be magical things happening?
Maybe. No. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you everyone who joined us virtually and contributed amazing comments and questions. Shout out to AAJA-LA for hosting this panel. I'm going to turn it over to Hugh. I'm going to turn it over to Hugh to give the final sign off.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for coming, and definitely follow us on socials at AAJA_LA. I think I got that right. AAJA_LA. Yeah, it is a tongue twister, but thanks for everyone for coming, and have a good night. And this will be recorded, so.
Thank you.
Sick.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Clips and 7. Let's go.
Woo!